again another wonderful session of Together Developing Ghana. This is where we give you updates on our progress in making Ghana one of the fastest growing countries in the world by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in London today. I will introduce the speaker to you shortly, but my name is Emmanuel Kwame Akuamoah Mensah, and I will be your host for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, the speaker we have today, he has been a great help to the organization itself. So if you've seen the success of the organization and you are loving what we're doing so far, he has been there with us from the very beginning in 2018. Now, the speaker, he is a dynamic and impact-driven project volunteer program manager with over 9 years experience in leading community-focused initiatives across the United Kingdom and Ghana. Now, he currently serves as the program officer for Bradford 2025 City of Culture volunteer program, and he leads one of the most inclusive and ambitious volunteering movements in the United Kingdom. Isn't he amazing? Now, he builds partnerships with over 130 organizations and engage a diverse volunteer base representing 25 plus languages and then in a wide range of backgrounds. Now, he's also the head of program and project for Coastal Watch Ghana, and he holds the same portfolio in Troy, based in the UK. And he recently received a Dean's Prize for Innovation and Impact from the University of Bradford, where he earned his master's in project and planning. And ladies and gentlemen, he used to even lead Project Hope in Ghana. Those who know Project Hope in Ghana and the UNDP, he funded initiative that focused on marine plastic pollution, youth training, and community advocacy. Ladies and gentlemen, he used to work with those organizations. So you can see his background. He's been on the field, he's been on the ground. And ladies and gentlemen, he was those of you who have seen our structure, how we are operating as an organization, he is one of the members among the 4 people. So the other 4 was those in operations, the director of operations, Mr. Emmanuel Ike, and John. Together with him, they developed our structure that we are using to make a difference right now in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Carl Dovi. Mr. Carl, you are on.
Thank you very much, President. I'm highly humbled by the way you've actually introduced me, and I'm beginning to think whether I am really all of this, but technically, I mean, I'll just go straight to the point. So I'm going to share my screen just to give me a sec. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know that it's working. Please, can you see my screen? Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, Carl, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So tonight we are talking about user-centered design, and somebody will ask, what is user-centered design? So user-centered design is actually basically talking about, oh, sorry, I don't know what's happening to my screen. So user-centered design is actually talking about how we actually put people at the center of the things that we produce or the project that we design. Now, someone will ask me, when did user-centered design actually become something that we all talk about or we all actually give a fuss about? So I'm just going to give a brief background of even what the whole user-centered design is actually all about. So user-centered design was first actually developed by Apple. I mean, we all know Apple, iPhone, iPad, and all that. So user-centered design was actually first designed by them, or what was actually first used by them for them to be able to create products or software that are at the forefront of the people that use them. However, it looks like now user-centered design has been adopted by every organization. If you look at organizations like, so way back in 1980, that was when it was developed by Donald Norman at Apple. Now, this phrase actually simply means putting design, or actually creating designs that revolves around the need, preferences, and limitation of people, which is actually human-centered or rooted in human expectation or human demands naturally. At this point, it is at the core of every organization at the moment, and every organization now use user center to actually create project or create design or create businesses. And as we are all actually aiming to create businesses that would actually, as many of us actually dream to start our own ventures or businesses or even social enterprises, there's a need, or it is very crucial for us to adapt user uh, user-centered design in doing everything that we want to do. So I'm just going to start with, it's going to be a bit interactive. So if you can unmute, or if Prezo can actually facilitate the part where we actually get people to speak, that'd be great. So I'm going to talk about what user-centered design is. I'm going to talk about why it matters, why it is important for all of us to have a look at it. I'll talk about how it is used, and then it will be open for question and answers. But then from the start, it will be very interactive. So I just want to ask a big question. You can feel free to use the chat box, or you can actually, Prezo can actually facilitate where we can get responses. So I just want to ask a big
those
question.
if you will have anything you want to say to him, just raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can do that.
Great.
Thank you.
So just a big question. What are some of the bad experiences you have had trying to access a particular service, product, or system? If I can get three people to share their bad experiences, that'd be great. We have two.
Yes, Madam Teresa, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and yes, please.
So the question is asking the bad experience that we've had.
Yeah, trying to access a particular service, product, or system.
Yeah, so the bad experience is unable to access the service, even though they promise that it should be easy, but it's difficult to access the service. And that was frustrating. So I end up have to give up getting the product that I needed.
Good. That's right. The next question.
Yes, Sami, go ahead.
Yeah. The bad experience I've also had trying to access a product or service, my experience had to do with the fact that it was preferential or discriminatory, in the sense that initially they really didn't know who I was. They thought I was just, they were looking at the fact that you need to be someone they are expecting to be in a certain category before they give you the needed service. And so that was the bad experience I had. But later on, I think, I'm the type that will not allow you to, go scot-free. So they had their fair share of the deal.
Great. So that makes you a very critical complainer. Yeah. So that's great. So I'm also going to share mine. So this is basically some of the bad experience. When you look at this cup, for instance, whoever designed this cup, in his or her mind, is one of the most beautiful, eye-catchy cup or mug that he or she has designed. But when you look at this particular user, this cup is actually posing a lot of threat to this user. If you look at the mouse, for instance, I'm a busy person, and I'm always behind my PC all the time. And if my mouse actually runs low, or the battery dies, simply means I need to wait and get it charged before I start using it. What if I have a deadline, right? So this is actually one example of a bad technology. Now, when you look at the ATM, for instance, it simply means they didn't factor people like me. I am 6.3 feet. So if I'm to use it, then I'll have to kneel down, which is actually going to pose a lot of discomfort. When you look at this toilet, for instance, how do two people actually use this toilet? So this is basically some of the experiences that producers or designers actually when they refuse or when they miss the opportunity to involve users. This is some of the results. And I bet you that I'm sure this mouse hasn't made any better sales. This cup as well. Now, a quick icebreaker. When you look at these two pictures, which one gives you a good experience and which one gives you a bad experience? I think that there's a hand up. Which one gives you a bad experience and which one gives you, which one do you think will give you a good experience and which one do you think will give you a bad experience? Is it A or B? We can use a chat box as well. Okay, there's a hands up.
Yes,
Please
Madam
go ahead.
Teresa, please go ahead.
Hang on. So you want us to decide between the A and B, which one will give us a bad experience?
Yes, and which one do you think will give you a good experience and which one do you think will also give someone a bad experience?
I think B might give me good experience because it's indicated pull, which I know that if I want to pull it, I have to go to the other side of the door. If I need to push, I need to use this one. But A is giving pull and push. So I need to decide at what point am I supposed to, is this somebody coming in or somebody coming out? I'm not quite sure.
Okay, great. Any other person?
Yeah, so Phoebe, you could, yes. Yes, Phoebe, go ahead and unmute and you can, yes. All right.
Okay, I think that the A gives me a good experience. The B is a bad experience because you notice with pull, there's a handle there. With push, there's no handle, so I have to push it. There will be if there's a handle on whether push or pull, and it confuses me. I know there's a lot of us who this confuses, even when you get to like an elevator or get to like a door where you have to pull or push and you're not sure because the door will not move. I think for me, A is a better experience.
Right. So you all have great answers technically. I mean, it has to do with how you feel about it. I mean, if I should respond, I think I would actually agree with Mary. That is my personal experience. I feel because B has both pull and push has the same handle. Sometimes it is very confusing. I think the picture was supposed to have a break, more like two separate doors. So that's great. Now we can move to the next one. So the next one as well, which one? I mean, this actually for those of us who love cooking. I love cooking. So if those who love cooking are here, which one do you think will actually give you the great experience and which one will give you the bad experience as well? Okay, Teresa.
Yeah, Madam Teresa.
I think B will give a good experience because you just squeeze and you get your ketchup. The B, you can't squeeze a bottle, obviously. And once the way is tilting it and pushing it, tapping it, it will spill all over.
Yeah.
So to me, B would do for me.
Great, wonderful. Okay, these are all great perspectives. To be fair, I mean, I would also go for B because I hate making a lot of mess, and if I should use A, then I'm likely to actually make a mess in the kitchen. So this actually brings us to the point where we have to understand that whatever we create or the kind of businesses or the kind of services that we put out there, we are not the ones to use it. So we need to stop thinking like we are the ones going to use it. So people like Edwin Cottonwell actually mentioned that you are not your idea, and if you identify too closely with your ideas, you take offense when you are challenged. Definitely, that is why sometimes we tend to be very defensive when people try to actually tell us how they feel about our product or the kind of services that we put out there. And what happened with the first example that Sam gave? I mean, if not that Sam is actually somebody who can actually complain critically, I'm sure he would have actually left them and not even gone back to them again. That is they're losing their business. And Steve Jobs actually had a share as well by saying that it's not the customer's job to know what they want. It is your job to know what they want. So this is why user-centered design is actually very important. So basically, somebody who asks what is user-centered, it is just a design or a philosophy or a process that places the need, preferences, and limitation of the end user, so those who are going to use your product at the forefront. So whatever you do, they have to be the people that you think about. So the philosophy of the process focuses on three things. That is one, empathy. Empathy simply means you trying to actually feel the way they will feel. You actually trying to be in their shoes to know how they will feel when they are using that particular product. Participation. Please, you need to partake. You need to be part of it. You need to get them involved in the process in designing whatever. Else, if you sit in your home and you design something, it will definitely not actually meet their preference. And lastly, iteration. Iteration simply means being ready to receive feedback and redesigning your project, your services, your product to be able to meet demands of the people, because sometimes the things you design today may not really be able to serve the same purpose tomorrow. So you actually being ready, taking feedback and working around it to be able to be sure that you're actually redesigning things that fit people actually. Now, why does it matter? So I'll combine this to poverty elevation as well. So poverty issues are very complex because what you define as poverty will not be what other people would also define as poverty. So it ensures that solutions actually solve, or the solutions that you're designing solve real problems with or the kind of problems that people face because they are the expert of their own experiences. It also helps reduce waste of resources or systems or services people can't or will not use. Imagine you spending about $40,000 on a project that people will not end up using. There was a project that there was a case study when I was doing my master's. There was a case study that we were analyzing where a particular NGO went to a village in Kenya and they designed a project. And the project they designed was a borehole project where they made a pedal. So the woman was, and majority of people that use these borehole, those who go and fetch water in those areas are women. Most of them are women. So they created a pedal, and after creating it, the commission it paid huge amount of money, commissioned this project, brought in a whole lot of media. There was a whole lot of media attraction. They felt they had done the great project. They came back later and nobody was using this borehole. Meanwhile, the people needed water. They did another analysis and they got to understand that when the women are using the paddle, excuse me to say, their bodies shake and other men do watch them. So their husbands are not happy with other men watching their wives actually shaking when they are using the paddle. So that particular project became an elephant. So, I mean, if they had actually involved people in the community in designing this project, I'm sure they would have reduced the waste, the monies that they spend, because they spend loads of money that could have actually solved another problem. And when you involve or when you use design-centered process, because it actually factors in the needs of the people, their limitations as well, it helps them build trust and they own the project from start to end. Sometimes you even get people who are ready to even repair it when it breaks down. So how do we use design-centered or user-centered design? So there are so many frameworks, but the one that actually resonated with me, the ones that the user framework I've been using in the past years to actually design my project is a double diamond framework. You know how a diamond looks like? It has that square that is actually slanted. So this one is double diamond. And one beautiful thing about this particular framework is it's a cycle. It is not linear. So if you have a look at the research bit and the synthesis, you can definitely come back if you encounter a problem. So it in other words, it is also called the 4Ds, which is the discover, design, deliver. Now, in the discover stage, this is actually where you try to understand the needs and wants of the people. Define is when you try to define the exact problem, where the design is where you actually generate ideas, not really create the solution. You generate ideas to create the solutions. And the prototype is when you design something that with the people that best fits them. So the next slides will actually talk more about it. So in the discover stage, this is actually the first point of the process where you try to understand what you are making, what you try to understand what you are making, who you are making it for, and why you are making it. How do you do that? You do that by interviewing the people, speaking to the people in the community. Okay, this is basically a problem that I feel, or what is your main problems? You interview them and they will definitely tell you their problems. You also need to observe how the people do things and why they do what they do. Because as a project manager, the first thing you need to know is a local knowledge of where you're going to. You can also do a desk research. Normally, if we want to solve a problem, we start with a desk research. We try to know the community, we try to know the population, we try to understand how even the community looks like. So the desk research is actually a good start point where you get to understand the project. It is also good to also look at what other people are doing in other communities as well. The next thing is the focus group. So the focus group is where you actually bring in different people, ask them questions, let them tell you what they are facing. Because if you bring in somebody who is disabled and you bring it, excuse me, to somebody who is not disabled, they will definitely tell you different things, what their needs are. So focus group discussion is actually very important. Then you can also run surveys as well. Surveys is also you involving other stakeholders as well to understand how this is actually best work. So in this stage, you need to go beyond assumptions. You need to involve the real users, especially those who are often excluded, because those people are the ones that can actually give you the best solution and the best answers. So when you look at this table, it definitely talk about, I mean, I've identified some of the people that are normally excluded when it comes to some of these processes. Especially, we normally do exclude women because of their gender roles and because of their digital divide and their legal limitations as well. So we tend to actually not pay attention to these people. We also do not pay attention to elderly people because at this point we are in a digital world, and I think technology started in 1934 something. So it is assumed that those who are 70, majority of those who are 60 to 70 do not even understand what technology is. So we tend to actually overlook them and not even pay attention to them. But these people are people that can actually tell you the real history of the whole places. Children, because we normally exclude children because we believe they are children and all that, but sometimes children are also custodian of some of the things that we try to produce. The rural population, sometimes we also do not involve the population in the rural areas. We sit in Accra, we sit in Kumasi, design project, and boom, the next minute we are in the village to run the project. We also tend to exclude the community. So in every community, we have ethnic minorities and indigenous communities as well. So definitely in every community, we have people that have their culture not being as high as other people. So we also tend to not pay attention to them. People living in conflict and all that. I mean, a typical example, refugees, we tend to actually eliminate these people. For the purpose of time, I'll brush this through. I'll share this slide with the president and hopefully we'll share with everybody. So the second stage, which is the design. So this is the point where you analyze your research. You synthesize your key findings, teams, and draw a solution. Create a service that meets the needs of the intended user. So at this point, you're trying to put together every other thing that you've actually found on the field. So I'm sure in the process of the interview, you could understand people. So this is basically persona creation. So the persona creation is the point where you try to understand people's their goals, the things that inspire them, the things that encourage them, why they do what they do on a personal note. Then insight mapping is basically where you create a map of where you want to go to. So you might, I mean, I do this a lot. So when you look at my wall, I have so many different sticky notes as well, trying to connect dots. So if you watch crime movies, this is basically how they put people's faces and stickers and all that and try to connect the dots. So this is actually very important. This is an activity that you do during this stage. You also do the journey mapping. So the journey mapping is where you try to understand the journey of everybody, right from the design. If you put out the service or the whatever you're doing, how are the people going to use it? Will the people keep using it? Will the people advocate or encourage other people to use it? So this is basically where you try to understand the map, or you actually map the journey of your users or your customers in other sense. Another activity is also the problem statement. So the problem statement actually where you try to understand who is going to use it, what, when, where, and why they're going to use it. So you actually get all these things from your interview, your focus group discussion, and your observation as well. So at this point, you're supposed to focus on narrowing findings into clearly stated user needs, not the needs of the organization, but the needs of the users at this point. The third part is the design and development. This is actually not, and I'm saying this here, this is not the main stage to finalize your solution. Because when people hear design, develop, the assumption is, oh, this is the point where you create it. But no, this is really the point where you generate ideas, explore, and test possible solutions to the user-defined problem. So at this point, you co-design, so you actually create co-design workshops by meeting with these people, trying to actually, so sometimes when you create workshops, it creates spaces for people to actually give you answers. Brainstorm session, you brainstorm with them. Okay, if I do this, what will this do? What do you think we should do this? So this is basically the point where you're putting together all the ideas. Now, there's a step as well, generating the ideas, expanding. So if you're expanding the ideas, definitely that is when you use the brainstorming, right? You use the low, high fidelity prototype. Now, if you're reducing the ideas, that is when you create the prototype and test. So at this stage, the focus is to design with the user, not just for the user. Test ideas with excluded users. So as I said, excluded users, people that we normally exclude. A typical example, when we're creating the borehole, they were creating the borehole. I'm sure they excluded the men. If they had involved the men, I'm sure the men would have kicked against it. But they excluded them. So this is the point where you need to test your ideas with excluded users as well, and build solutions based on meaningful and usable that are usable to them. Now the last part is the deliver, and there's a caveat as well. Although this stage is at the end of the diamond, it doesn't necessarily complete the process. This makes the stage the point where you test your solution, refine it, and launch it. So deliver is when you are testing whatever you've actually created with them. Definitely, once you're testing it, you identify problems. So this is where you actually refine the problem. Once you refine the problem with them and you understand that this is actually a master, then you launch it because you've actually did it with them. So some of the activities you are likely to take part is this is you creating a physical product that is just like a miniature of it. You doing A/B testing. A/B test is actually testing it to see how it works. That we say Mac 2 and all that, right? Usability evaluation is when you actually take evaluation. When you used it, what did it create for you? How did you get it? So all these things are where you actually tend to redesign it well to fit and you launch it. So at this point, all you're supposed to do is to focus on to ensure that the solution continues to meet users' need as it scales. Because definitely, whatever business you create or whatever project you create, you hope to actually keep building on it. So you need to make sure that it will still meet the needs of the people. And mind you, these are some of the questions you need to keep in mind. Is it affordable? Is it something that the people in that community can afford? Because you cannot take a project or a business to a community where the people cannot afford. Is it the solution? Is this solution accessible to the excluded group? The people that you've excluded, is it a solution that helps them or will help them? Does it require skills or tools users do not have? Because if I'll need a typical example, if I go to a village and they will need a smartphone to operate a borehole, then technically that is a project that will not work. Because these people require extra skills, which they have to pay for, not with money, but technically maybe their time to learn it, which they might even end up forgetting. And can this be scaled across regions with similar challenges? Right? Because else you would have to spend time and redesign it again. So just to recap all that I've said, there are 4 stages, which is the discover. So at this stage, you need to empathize, understand the people, feel what they are feeling, be in their shoes. You do so by researching their needs and including the voice of everybody that you believe will be excluded. Then at this point, you define. That is where you actually put together all that you actually picked on the field to create a statement, an informed problem statement. Now, the develop is where you co-create. Please mark this word, co-create. You don't sit in your office or your warehouse and create. You co-create with the people by brainstorming with them, creating a prototype, testing with them, and making sure that every other person, which includes the excluded people, have access to this and you can get your major project. The final part, which is to deliver, is to validate. You launch a project, get feedback, refine, scale accessibility, and keep refining. So at this point, I have 2 case studies. This is the real case studies from Africa. Please pay attention. Let me start. I think there's a hands up.
Yes. Madam Teresa, do you have a question?
Yeah, I can't hear. I thought, are we not supposed to hear?
Oh, the sound.
It's not coming.
Oh my God. How do I fix this?
I think you need to share the sound when you're sharing.
Okay, I'm not really
Yeah.
familiar with Zoom. Maybe let me see.
Yeah, Carl, I think you should go to the share button and then let's hear your, allow your computer background to play.
Okay, so can you see the settings? These are the settings I have.
Stop
Yeah,
sharing.
no, on your Zoom, you see share down there.
Okay,
So you go to the share.
let me stop sharing
Okay.
and start and do it again. Okay, yes, I found it. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I found it. So, can you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
There are 2.5 billion people in the world who don't have access to what I would really recognize as a toilet, as a good toilet.
Before the Sonagy toilet, people were using the pit latrine, which were smelling so bad, poor maintenance, no tissue. And another thing is that they use the paper bags. So when you walk around, you see the fishes in the paper bags just thrown all over.
Like I can say, it was not good. And you go to the toilet, there is no soap or water. You just go like that and you eat food. You just diarrhea.
I learned a lot about the problems by going and cleaning exactly those toilets. So all the pit latrines, water flush toilets that clog up because there's no water and there's no way to maintain it. That's the best way to learn about what not to do and how to design a better solution, is by looking at things that are broken.
People are sick, they can't work. If they can't work, they can't earn income. If they can't earn income, then they don't have access to clean water, food, education.
By just using a little bit of ingenuity and adapting existing solutions and to create real change, that's what really inspired us to bring Sanergy about.
Sanergy makes hygienic sanitation accessible and affordable. We do this by building a dense network of low-cost, high-quality branded sanitation facilities called Fresh Life Toilets. We franchise these to micro-entrepreneurs living in the communities who run them as small businesses, take the waste out of the community to a centralized location where we then convert it into useful byproducts, namely organic fertilizer and renewable energy. We then sell those products to farms in Kenya to help address the food shortage.
It's clean. You can always wash your hands with soap and water. It always has toilet paper available.
Okay, so I'll pause so we can get to the next case study. So this for this particular case study, if you paid attention to the first speaker, he said he went to clean the toilet with them to understand the problem. And if you pay attention to the kind of prototype or the kind of toilet they built, right? Somebody would have thought, why don't you build a WC where they could flush? But these people are not used to WC, but they are used to the cesspit kind of toilet. And that is what they are comfortable with. So they were able to innovate something around it and create something that they are very comfortable with, which has created another product out of it. Now let's look at another case study as well.
They brought for us.
So this is the second case study.
You're watching The Rundown. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Frontline World has a new documentary out called Troubled Water. We are joined by the producer-director, also the journalist on the film, Amy Costello. Thanks for being with us.
It's nice to be here, Hari.
All right, so Troubled Water takes a look at a kind of development tool or technology that was supposed to help the problems that people had with hand pumps in small villages and developing nations. Basically kind of a merry-go-round, if you will, that kids would play on and that would pump water, right? You found this story, or you did this story several years ago.
That's correct. Yes, I did.
And so why go back and revisit it?
Well, about a year ago, I found out, after I'd reported on this technology a couple of times for Frontline World, I found out that there were some problems in the field with the technology. About a year after my story had been broadcast, about an announcement from Washington came that they were going to donate about $16 million between the U.S. government and the Case Foundation to expand this technology across several African nations. And after that announcement in 2006, I assumed that the technology was rolling out well and that lots of people across Africa were getting fresh, clean drinking water due to this technology called the play pump. But I found out about a year ago that things were not going well. So I went with a camera and went back to Africa to find out for myself on the ground what was going on.
So what are some of the kind of systemic challenges challenges? Is it an organizational problem? Is it a rollout problem? Is it a problem with the actual tool itself?
I think part of it was this push to get many play pumps into the ground on a fairly quick timeline. And I think that proved to be challenging from a maintenance point of view, that pumps would break down and they were not able to be fixed. And that had significant repercussions because, you know, as I say, we're not talking about television sets that are breaking down. We're talking about people's access to clean drinking water. So when a pump breaks down, that's really critical. And can be detrimental to a community. And I think there were also kind of cultural issues that arose. I think that not every community where a play pump was installed necessarily in the end wanted this technology. So there was some pushback from the users themselves. And I think finally the main thing is that this is supposed to be a toy that children play on. And as they pump and spin around and round on the play pump, fresh water is pumped at the same time. And I think they found that children, like everywhere in the world, sometimes get tired of playing on one toy all the time. But if they were relying on the energy of children, they really needed them to be spinning and spinning literally for hours a day to provide adequate water. And of course they weren't. And that's another thing that I found on the ground there in my reporting.
Your film also starts to highlight perhaps a reluctance to admit failure on the parts of large foundations. I mean, I think everybody wants a big win. Everybody's well-intentioned. But they don't necessarily want to be forthright when they say, okay, maybe this didn't really work.
Yeah, I think that's true. And
So in this particular project as well, like, you know, so when you look at the amount of money spent on the $16 million and you run a project and people do not use it, the assumption is children are going to use it every time. But don't forget, children go to school. So what happens when these children are in school? Does it mean that when they are at school, nobody is going to get water? And as the reporter clearly stated, the children got tired of playing with one toy. So this project failed. And those who actually designed this project failed to also take responsibility of it. And at the end of the day, the money got wasted. Right. So when you look at the difference between these two case studies, I mean, Synergy had a workshop with users, which actually fall under user collecting information and co-creating with the people in the village, because the co-founder of Synergy said he went to clean the toilet with them as well. So trying to understand what they go through and even observing. The toilet units were built and shared by using the same design that the people were used to in a modernized way. They tested it with the people to refine the idea to make sure it was given off no odor. It was spacious enough for everyone. They made sure that the product did not need any extra tools or energy to use it, because I mean, you just go and use it like the way you're using the old one. This project is actually scalable because now they are running it in other countries as well, or other cities as well. And they are even creating fertilizer out of the waste that people produce. Now, when you look at the second case study, the design ignored women's feedback, because women are the ones who would go to the pump and fetch water. And they focus on children and assume that the children will be playing with the pump every day. They overlooked maintenance realities and spare part logistics because they didn't work with the people to find out whether they even have people that could repair it when there's a problem. Now, so this is basically the main challenges. So these are the difference between the two case studies. So major key takeaways from this particular session today is, when you're creating your project, please co-create with users at every stage, especially those who are directly affected and also people that are excluded. Prototype early and in context. Use the feedback of the people to refine the design before scaling, because in every project, the more you delay, the more you spend a lot. Iterate based on lived experience, not just centralized ambition. So please, when you sometimes when you are a business owner, and you sleep, you think, you see pictures, you feel, oh, let me do it this way and all that. It shouldn't be on your centralized or based on your centralized ambition, but it should be on the lived experience of the people, the feedback that the people do. And please ensure that the systems are sustainable with clear handing over plans and maintenance strategies. So if you're drawing a project, you need to factor in, and if you're drawing a project and you're going to give the community, or you're going to let the business like that, you need to make sure you're creating a clear handing over plans and a process where these people can actually maintain and where it's gone. So at this point, I'm open for question and answers.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question, just raise your hand and we will be able to unblock you so you can ask your question. So as you heard from him, he has been working, he was one of the team, I mean, he was one of the persons who helped with our strategy. And so those of you who knows, and those of you who don't understand, keep asking me questions. Why haven't we done this? Why haven't we done that? we have the best team on the ground. We know what we are doing. We are working to make sure that we will be able to achieve our goal by 2030. Within 6 years, we will make Ghana one of the fastest growing countries in the world. So as you've seen it, that's why we take our time to make sure that whatever we are presenting to you, it is really realistic and it can be done. That is why we bring it to your way. So please, if you have any question, you can raise your hand and ask, but I'll be going through the rest of the meeting. We have 20 minutes. I hope I can do the rest. But I mean, Carl, thank you very much. You did a very great job. Okay, I think Teresa has a question for you. Madam Teresa, please go ahead.
Carl, thank you for that vivid presentation to draw attention that when we are doing a project, we always have to consult the customers to make sure we are providing their needs, not just providing a product or service. So my question is, when a person is going to go into agriculture, for example, what suggestion would you give such a person to involve customers?
So agriculture is actually big technically. So I was going to add a case study on agriculture. So technically, I mean, you should be able to understand what the people actually produce, what the people are used to producing. Because if the people are used to producing corn, and you go to them and say produce cassava, which the people are not used to producing, then definitely this is something that is going to fail. If you are introducing any new technology, then you should actually do this with the people to make sure that the technology that you are introducing into the farming process or the agricultural process is a technology that the people can use without any additional energy or any additional tool, or something that the people can even maintain when you are not around. So the same process that Apple and every other organization are using is the same process that is the same process that I'll recommend. So you should be able to sit with the people and understand their needs, observe what the kind of plants that or the kind of crops that they grow that makes them happy, observe the market is as well. I mean, how does the market link? Is there a direct market? Because there's a reason why the people produce what they are producing.
Yeah.
Right, Madam Teresa, I don't know if your question has been answered, but let me add to that is why once you go into agriculture, for instance, the Rise Ghana Youth Foundation puts you on the agricultural platform. We have a team who would help you to make sure to get all this information before you go in, because remember, like I said, when you thrive, we also thrive. So we make sure that you have the best information that you would need to be able to produce the best for your whatever business that we have encouraged you to go into. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't take any more questions. We only have 1 minute to go. Carl, is there anything you would like to share with us before we go?
I just want to say thank you to all for the attention, and I hope that going forward our businesses will strive, because we will be looking at using user-centered designs and actually designing our services and our product and all that to people. Thank you very much for having me, and it's actually been a great honor speaking to everybody here.
Right.